You're still glowing, flirting, grooving. You still got it. But your immune system weakens as you age, making it harder to fight flu, pneumococcal pneumonia, RSV, and COVID-19. Vaccines are a key part of any health routine and help strengthen your immune response. Ask your doctor or pharmacist which vaccines you need. Schedule in minutes at vaxassist.com. Sponsored by Pfizer.
Thanks for tuning into Midday. I'm Maria Shilaos. A rise in sexual assault cases at the University of Utah. Officials say they have seen a spike in those cases over the past few years. KSL News Radio's Adam Small has been talking with safety officials at the U and tells me the numbers at face value look rather shocking.
Well, the University, Maria, is reporting a pretty high number of sexual assault or rape cases on campus over the last year. This is a report that the university, by federal law, is required to release every single year. And the numbers were pretty high, at least for rape cases on campus. They were reporting 146 cases, which is nearly 5 times what they reported on campus in all of 2022. Though the university is saying it's not as simple as it appears. So out of that 146, they're saying 110 came from a multiple-month relationship between 2 students who have since graduated. So the survivor in that violent relationship came forward and reported 110 instances of sexual assault in that relationship. So that's a big reason why numbers are so high. If you take that 110 out, the numbers would only be slightly up from where they were in 2022. They didn't have as detailed of a breakdown for us today of their numbers last year, which were even higher, but we imagine it's something pretty similar where it was either from one specific relationship or also under the federal acts that they follow to make these reports. If someone comes forward and reports a rape from years prior, they have to count it in the year it was reported. So those are just a couple of things that can kind of skew the numbers. The university is actually saying that they feel like this could actually also be a little bit of a good thing in that they feel like more people are coming forward, more victims and survivors are stepping forward, reaching out for help. That can be a very good sign.
So what does it say, though, about the safety of the campus? You mentioned how they were trying to distinguish between those that happened in already, formed relationships and those that just happened just on a spur of a moment.
Yeah, it really seems like, and while we don't have all the details of the circumstance of every case, obviously, it really seems like a lot of this is happening in established relationships. It's like, I think they use the analogy of like people aren't hopping out of bushes and like attacking people on campus. That's not what's happening. A lot of this is coming from complex, violent, abusive relationships. And I think that's really what the university is trying to help kids with, because they have a violence prevention center that they're trying to get people that may have habits where they could potentially end up doing something violent. They're trying to help people not go forward and become down a dark and dangerous road to try to protect people that way. And they have more resource centers out for victims to where they can reach out, talk about things. And I think there's just more awareness generally nowadays too. The younger generations are becoming more and more aware of violence, abuse, sexual assaults. And I think people are learning to trust and lean on close friends, family, telling people they need to tell. I think it's kind of like a lot of different factors leading into the numbers that we're seeing.
Right. The university has come under scrutiny due to some pretty high-profile cases in the past. Does the report indicate that changes have been made on campus to deal with sexual assaults? I mean, you mentioned the resources, but have other changes been made to really improve the safety and security of the campus?
Yeah, I actually, when I was talking with a university spokesperson, obviously a lot of our listeners are familiar with the case of Lauren McCluskey, who was murdered after enduring a violent relationship. The public safety building now right across from Rice-Eccles Stadium was built in response to what happened to her. And that was a huge turning point for the university. I actually had asked about that specifically because there was a lot of different things that went wrong in that investigation and what happened to Lauren. So the school has not only built a public safety building where they've also established soft conference rooms where people can talk to someone. They also have, I believe it's a student living resource center where they have advocates there. And then also just promoting that culture of awareness. They also have 90% of their police force has turned over since the Lauren McCluskey case. From what the university had told me, they felt like since that happened, they've done a complete 180 and have been really trying to expand their resources, focusing on helping victims, and also not only helping victims after the fact, but trying to find ways to prevent violence before it happens.
All right. Adam, anything else we should know about this report?
I would just say that numbers can be pretty jarring when you look at them forwardly. Obviously, when you look at nearly 5 times the number of rape cases from just 2 years ago, that can be pretty startling or shocking. But I think the university is addressing that with a lot of transparency. As I've talked to them, they're not trying to hide this. This is something that they are trying to be transparent about. And I think that, again, they're trying to combine it with the fact that they want anyone to be aware of how to prevent violence. And also, if you are a victim or you're a survivor, to come forward and reach out for the help that you need. Because we know that this is a huge problem, not just on college campuses, but in our society at large. And I think that's the biggest thing we can do is be aware of the problem and tackle it head on.
KSL News Radio's Adam Small joining me to break down the information in the University of Utah's annual safety report. Weber School District is issuing warnings for students and staff who aren't vaccinated against measles. In an email sent out this week, the district says that those who weren't immunized may be told not to come to school for at least 21 days after an exposure. District Nurse Supervisor Marie Evans told KSL's Britt Johnson what protocol on something like this would look like.
It would mainly be those that don't have a vaccine or proof of immunity. And so if that were the case, if we found that we had a case of measles in our building, we would immediately reach out to the health department and we would follow their guidance from there. They would work with us on contact tracing to see who possibly could have been exposed, and then we would have to identify if they've had the vaccine or if they have proof of immunity, and then we would go from there.
Despite vaccines currently being a controversial issue in the United States, Evans says that this policy has been received well among district residents.
I knew exactly when the email went out because I immediately got a phone call and they'd left me a voicemail, and it was a parent thanking us for being proactive and for doing what we can to keep students safe.
She says the district will provide resources to the community and to those who may want the combination measles, mumps, and rubella vaccine.
So we, through the month of October, and I think the first weekend in November, we've partnered with Weber Morgan Health Department. They're coming to our buildings to provide flu vaccines, but they'll also be providing MMR to adults that would like to receive that vaccine. So we're just trying to remove any barriers, make it as easy as possible for people to get that. So that's something that we're offering, and the community is always welcome there as well. On our district website, we have a calendar of the schools that they'll be at, the dates and times, and so people are welcome to look and show up to receive those vaccines if they'd like.
And do they need an insurance card to get those?
Yes, so they can bring their insurance card and they will bill their insurance.
More information can be found on the Weber Morgan Health Department's website. Stay with us. We'll be back with more in just 60 seconds.
J&J Garden Center is your fall headquarters. Now through November 1st, save 20% on perennials, shrubs, containerized trees, soils, fountains, and more. You'll also find clearance trees up to 50% off. Fall is the perfect time to plant pansies, mums, and fall bulbs. Don't forget pumpkins, gourds, strawbills, and corn stalks. Plus, explore our gift shop for cozy fall decor and seasonal finds. Hurry and visit us in Layton today, and let's get your garden fall ready. J&J Garden Center, where fall begins.
Plan your escape to the Overlook Hotel. Enjoy crisp mountain air, breathtaking views, and peace and quiet. Maybe too quiet? Based on Stephen King's thrilling novel, The Shining, Jack Torrance's descent into madness at the Overlook Hotel comes to life on stage, just in time for Halloween, October 11th to 19th at the Haunted Capitol Theater. Tickets start at $26 at utahopera.org/redrum.
Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu standing firm that Israel must finish the job against Hamas in Gaza. He touted his country's military resolve while speaking before the UN General Assembly today. Dozens of delegations walked out as Netanyahu walked in, and protesters demonstrated outside the UN building in New York City. Netanyahu decrying the decision from a handful of countries to recognize a Palestinian state. More from ABC's Ian Pannell.
He raised the idea of the United States tolerating an al-Qaeda state, comparing the idea of a Palestinian state to recognizing a terrorist state. Well, of course, it's slightly mixing apples and oranges there. People are talking about a Palestinian state, not a Hamas state. But nevertheless, this was a speech that was broadcast around the world, but not least on loudspeakers into Gaza itself.
In his speech, Netanyahu slammed the push among UN members to recognize Palestinian statehood.
Many world leaders buckled. They buckled under the pressure of a biased media, radical Islamist constituencies, and anti-Semitic mobs.
The Israeli leader asked world leaders to imagine the October 7th attack that had happened in the United States.
They massacre 40,000 Americans. They take 10,000 Americans hostage. What do you think America would do? You think America would leave that regime standing? You don't think that.
Netanyahu said Israel had placed speakers on the border with Gaza so he could address the remaining Hamas-held hostages there.
We have not forgotten you, not even for a second. The people of Israel are with you. We will not falter and we will not rest until we bring all of you home.
He also called on leaders of Hamas to lay down their weapons.
Let my people go. Free the hostages, all of them, the whole 48. Free the hostages now. If you do, you will live. If you don't, Israel will hunt you down.
Meanwhile, President Trump says a ceasefire deal is imminent in Gaza. The president making the announcement to reporters before leaving the White House for the Ryder Cup in New York.
I think it's a deal that will get the hostages back. It's going to be a deal that will end the war. It's going to be a deal it's going to be peace.
In his speech before the United Nations General Assembly today, Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu did not mention any ceasefire negotiations or any potential deal. A grand jury indicting former FBI Director James Comey on multiple counts of lying to Congress. Comey maintaining his innocence. We'll get the breakdown from ABC News next. But first is KSL Traffic, brought to you by Mountain America. Turn everyday spending into an extraordinary escape. Ricky?
Traffic snarled westbound Highway 189 Provo Canyon due to a crash about 2 miles prior to SR 92 at the Sundance entrance. Now, if you are making your way northbound on I-15, 2 crashes also causing delays. One, as you're approaching Bangerter Highway in Draper, it's out of traffic on the right, but backing traffic to the point of the mountain. The other one is an accident just after 33rd South on northbound I-15. Left lanes blocked and delays backing almost to Murray. No matter the weather, your feet can feel fantastic. Find the Good Feet location nearest you at goodfeet.com. Ricky Meese in the KSL Traffic Center.
It's been a long, hot summer here in Utah, and let's be honest, many yards and gardens are looking a little tired. But good news, as the nights start to cool, now is the perfect time to revive your yard. Yes, it's time to get our outdoor spaces ready for back to school and all your favorite fall activities. At Olson's Greenhouse, we're bringing in fresh shipments every week of vibrant garden mums and beautiful fall bedding plants to help you refresh your outdoor spaces. Cooler nights and warm soil create the ideal conditions for planting, and your perennials will thank you next spring. So whether you're sprucing up the porch, replanting your flower beds, or decorating for harvest season, Olson's Greenhouse has everything you need to make your garden thrive again. To find a retailer of Olson's plants near you, visit ogg.com for Olson's Greenhouse Gardens. That's ogg.com, or find ideas and inspiration on Instagram at Olson's Greenhouse Gardens.
So my mother is thinking of switching from Verizon to Pure Talk, but she's worried the deal sounds too good to be true. Michael, she said, how can those Pure Talk people offer me the same basic service as Verizon for so much less money? I said, Mom, go ask Google how much Verizon spends on advertising and promotion. A few seconds later, my mother said, "Oh my goodness, $12 billion a year? That must be a typo." I'll tell you what I told my mom. It's not a typo. Verizon spends $12 billion a year on advertising and promotion, and their customers are paying for it. Well, Pure Talk doesn't spend that kind of money on commercials. Trust me, I would know. Consequently, they can offer you and my mother unlimited talk, text, and plenty of data on a blazing fast 5G network for just $25 a month. Dial pound 250 and say the words Mike Rowe, and you'll get an additional 50% off your first month. That's pound 250 Mike Rowe. Pure Talk. Everything you need and nothing you don't.
Ooh, ma.
What was that?
That is business phone bliss with the Ooma Cloud Phone System. It handles all our voice, video, and messaging needs.
You sound very...
Calm? I am. Ooma has everything I need to run my business more efficiently, like virtual receptionist, call routing, and video conferencing. And it starts at just $19.95 per month per user, plus taxes and fees.
Ooma.
Nice. Find your business comm at ooma.com/radio.
You still got it, but your immune system weakens as you age, making it harder to fight flu, pneumococcal pneumonia, RSV, and COVID-19. Ask your doctor or pharmacist which vaccines you need. Sponsored by Pfizer.
How can you free your team from time-consuming office tasks? Amazon Business. Smart business buying tools enable buyers to find and purchase items fast so they can focus on strategy and growth. Free up your teams and focus on your future. Learn more at amazonbusiness.com.
When I have an asthma attack, I feel scared.
Prevent your child's next asthma attack. Call 1-866-NO-ATTACKS. Visit www.noattacks.org or call your doctor, because even one attack is one too many. Brought to you by the EPA and the Ad Council.
You are listening to Midday. I'm Maria Shilaos. We are streaming on the KSL News Radio app, sponsored by At Your Service Pros. Former FBI Director James Comey now facing an indictment from the federal government over allegedly lying to the Senate Judiciary Committee in 2020. Comey says he's innocent. President Trump has been putting pressure on his new hand-picked U.S. attorney in Virginia to bring charges against Comey. ABC's Catherine Falders broke the story, and she joined Brad Milkey on the Start Here podcast today to go more in-depth on the charges.
The top prosecutor, Lindsay Halligan, had to go present to the grand jury, and they deliberated for quite some time. But what happened is they returned a 2-count indictment, one on false statements to Congress and one of obstructing a congressional proceeding. And it all stems from testimony, Brad, that Comey gave to the Senate Judiciary Committee in 2020. And it centered around all sorts of allegations. There was conversation about Russia and Trump's campaign ties at the time, whether Comey authorized leaks, for example, through a third party. And the interesting part of this is it was all rushed, right? Because the statute of limitations is up on this on Tuesday. So they rushed to bring this indictment quickly, and the grand jury deliberated for a few hours.
Well, and this is huge because, as we said yesterday, prosecutors had been looking for months and went to DOJ officials saying, listen, there's no there there. We don't think we can get a conviction here. But the new acting U.S. attorney, Lindsay Halligan, clearly says otherwise. What is she alleging he did? Can you walk us through the allegations?
I can. This all, again, stems from 2020 when Comey was testifying before Congress. So what they're alleging is that Comey made a false statement to Congress.
Chairman Grassley asked you point blank, quote, have you ever been an anonymous source in news reports about matters relating to the Trump investigation or the Clinton investigation? You responded under oath, quote, never.
The statement was a very specific instance in an exchange with Senator Ted Cruz.
So your testimony is you've never authorized anyone to leak. And Mr. McCabe, if he says contrary, is not telling the truth. Is that correct?
Again, I'm not going to characterize Andy's testimony, but mine is the same today.
He basically said that his answer during his testimony then was the same as it was before. And basically, long story short, he didn't authorize anybody to leak information on his behalf. So that's what they're taking issue with, and that's what he was indicted on, authorizing another person to serve as an anonymous source in news reports. So that was number one. Number two is this obstruction of Congress, basically. And what they are alleging here in the obstruction of Congress is that because, this is what the indictment says, because Comey did corruptly endeavor to influence, obstruct, and impede the due and proper exercise of the power of an inquiry under which an investigation was being had. He therefore obstructed this congressional inquiry. So it's all stemming from the same thing. In terms of Comey's defense down the road, I mean, he has a number of defenses he can make here. But I think when we go back, Brad, to thinking about how we got to this point, and the top prosecutors in the office believed, frankly, that they couldn't prove with the evidence they had that Comey knowingly lied, that Comey knowingly perjured himself before Congress in 2020.
The prosecution originally trying for 3 charges, but the grand jury only moving forward on 2 of them. As for the reaction to the indictment, Comey has been outspoken this whole time, continuing to say he's innocent.
We, of course, were outside Comey's house yesterday waiting to hear if he had anything to say. We didn't see him physically before cameras, but he posted an Instagram video following the indictment.
My heart is broken for the Department of Justice, but I have great confidence in the federal judicial system, and I'm innocent. So let's have a trial.
And also, Brad, it remains to be seen exactly what happens to this office, given that so many people in the Eastern District of Virginia were against this. They did not want to help Lindsay Halligan go to the grand jury and present this. In fact, I'm told that she did this by herself. So we will likely see, according to sources that I'm talking to, multiple resignations from this office. We saw one yesterday pretty immediately following the indictment. And Comey's son-in-law actually happened to work in the Eastern District of Virginia. He was a prosecutor in the National Security Division, and just pretty much moments after the indictment came, he submitted his resignation directly to Halligan.
What happens now? Because you've probably thought way more about this than I have, but it does seem like this could easily turn into one of the biggest judicial stories in American history. Because if an FBI director investigates an incoming president's campaign and within a decade is then charged with federal crimes and potentially, I mean, if he was convicted, gets thrown in prison almost at the explicit direction of that president, that would be, I mean, that seems big.
It is. And if I were Comey's lawyers, and I know a lot of legal experts have been speculating about this, just given the events of the past week, Brad, he fired the previous U.S. attorney. He was on the South Lawn. The president was on the South Lawn of the White House, essentially directing this investigation.
We have to act fast. If they're not guilty, that's fine. If they are guilty or if they should be charged, they should be charged. And we have to do it now.
This is an easy motion for Comey's lawyers to potentially file, this is what I'm hearing from sources, for a vindictive prosecution, if you will. There's all sorts of motions that they'll be able to file to try and get this thrown out. Our reporting on the declination memo and what prosecutors were saying, surely Comey's attorneys are going to want to get their hands on that. They're going to want that in discovery to show a judge and a jury and as they go through the court proceedings, why top prosecutors in the office recommended against this. So it's something that will drag out for quite some time. Of course, the next thing that will happen is he will be arraigned, and he'll be arraigned at some time in October.
Right, and we'll be waiting to see what happens at that DOJ office. But also, I mean, this is not just limited to this one. James Comey, according to the president, is just the first of many dominoes, many indictments possibly to fall.
ABC's Catherine Falders and the host Brad Milkey on the Start Here podcast. Today, President Trump spoke to reporters, insisting that the indictment of Comey has nothing to do with political retribution. It's 1:30, midday at KSL News Radio. I'm Maria Shilaos. Some of the stories we are watching this hour. The future of Utah's congressional maps now open for public comment. How you can make your voice heard and play a role in the process. A new legislative audit finding that the cybersecurity of Utah's schools is lacking. We'll get a breakdown on the recommendations, and we'll take a look at KSL traffic. Ricky?
We do have crashes causing delays in 2 spots on northbound I-15. Also a crash on Highway 189 Provo Canyon prior to SR 92, backing traffic. Maria?
Get ready for more fall-like temperatures. The temperatures dropping into the 70s for all of Leck next week, and pretty much the low 70s as well. Right now, 79 degrees. KSL's top local stories in 1 minute. It's 1:30.
ABC News, I'm Michelle Franzen. An ICE agent in New York has been relieved of current duties after a video captured a violent confrontation. That video showing an ICE officer pushing a woman to the floor who was crying in the hallway at the federal building, pleading with officers after her husband was detained following a scheduled hearing. ABC's Armando Garcia has more.
So far, DHS has been very supportive of how ICE agents have conducted immigration arrests, but clearly they saw something in this video that was alarming, and they're now conducting an investigation saying, quote, the officer's conduct conduct in this video is unacceptable and beneath the men and women of ICE.
New York Congressman Daniel Goldman tells ABC News he sent a letter to Attorney General Pam Bondi demanding a criminal investigation. President Trump says the indictment of a former FBI director, James Comey, is more about justice than revenge. Comey is facing charges of lying to Congress and obstruction of justice after President Trump pushed for DOJ to investigate political adversaries. Comey says he's innocent. On Wall Street, stocks are up. This is ABC News.
KSL's top local story. The University of Utah has released their annual campus safety report. They're reporting another very high number of rape cases, but they say it's not as straightforward as it appears.
In this year's report, which is required by federal law, the university says they had just under 150 rape cases on campus in 2024, which is nearly 5 times more than what they reported 2 years ago. But a big reason the number is so high this year is because 110 of those cases came from one victim survivor who endured a violent relationship for multiple months with the same person. And University of Utah Director of Communications Rebecca Walsh says the high numbers could also be a good thing in a way.
By one critical measure, our university is unique. Our students are coming forward to ask for help in navigating these experiences. And when one student reports this behavior, it makes it okay for another to do the same.
Walsh says they're proud of the progress they've made and are calling on any victims who haven't reached out yet to come forward.
Reach out to someone you trust and share what happened to you. You can't hold it inside yourself. You need the support of the people around you.
Adam Small, KSL News Radio.
State health officials have confirmed a positive case of avian flu in a Sanpete County turkey facility. Utah Department of Agriculture and Food says all of the commercial facilities have been quarantined to prevent further spread. They are asking bird owners to watch their flocks for any sign of the disease, as it is deadly and can spread quickly. Traffic should start to ease on Bangerter Highway at the south end of the valley. UDOT spokesperson John Gleason says the interchange at 2700 South will open on Monday.
We're going to have free-flowing traffic all the way from I-15 in the south end of the valley to 4100 South. That's a time savings of about 8 minutes.
It comes after the construction of a new interchange at 134th South in Riverton. Other local stories KSL is following. Bears encounters are going up, and USU researchers are trying to find better ways to convince people to carry bear spray.
From 2012 to 2022, the amount of people running into bears in Montana's section of Yellowstone more than doubled, reaching a record high in 2019. There were even several deaths in that time frame. But USU researcher Anna Miller says only 1 in 4 hikers carry bear spray. She says national parks should make the spray easier to find and provide low-cost options. Managers could also do more to notify people of the spray's importance on websites, pointing out that if hikers reach a trailhead without bear spray, it's a little late.
Miller says carrying bear spray can save both people and bears' lives by reducing conflict. Taking a look at your money at this moment, the Dow is up by 386 points, sitting at 46,333. S&P up by 41, and the NASDAQ up by more than 100 points. Traffic and weather is brought to you by Mountain America. Turn everyday spending into an extraordinary escape. Ricky?
We had a crash westbound Highway 189 about 1 to 2 miles prior to SR 92, the Alpine Scenic Highway. And it looks like traffic has started to move again, so that's very good news. It did back up traffic while we were watching crews trying to get this crash cleared, so residual delays remain after Deer Creek on the way to SR 92 on Highway 189. On northbound I-15, the crash has been moved out of the way just after 33rd South. All lanes are open. We have some residual delays going back to 45th South and heavy and slow traffic at the point of the mountain up to Bangerter Highway, where an accident is still over to the right. No one harvests fall better than Cedar City for the best recreating events, farmers markets, hay mazes, pumpkin patches, eateries, all in living color. Fall in love where everyone wants to be. That's Cedar City. Ricky Meese in the KSL Traffic Center.
A high today of 81 degrees, 20% chance of showers. That chance of showers increasing by Sunday, 40% chance, and the temperature dropping into the 70s. 79 degrees at the KSL Common Spirit Health Studios.
The sources where we get our news matters.
When you listen to Utah's Morning News, we want you to feel the stories are important to you and trustworthy. This is Amanda Dixon.
And I'm Andy Farnsworth. Join us weekday mornings on KSL News Radio.
Traffic's rough, but your parking lot doesn't have to be. GoPave Utah keeps things smooth with expert asphalt maintenance at GoPaveUtah.com. Call or visit GoPaveUtah.com.
So my mother is thinking of switching from Verizon to Pure Talk, but she's worried the deal sounds too good to be true. Michael, she said, how can those Pure Talk people offer me the same basic service as Verizon for so much less money? I said, Mom, go ask Google how much Verizon spends on advertising and promotion. A few seconds later, my mother said, oh my goodness, $12 billion a year? That must be a typo. I'll tell you what I told my mom. It's not a typo. Verizon spends $12 billion a year on advertising and promotion, and their customers are paying for it. Well, Pure Talk doesn't spend that kind of money on commercials. Trust me, I would know. Consequently, they can offer you and my mother unlimited talk, text, and plenty of data on a blazing fast 5G network for just $25 a month. Dial pound 250 and say the words Mike Rowe, and you'll get an additional 50% off your first month. That's pound 250 Mike Rowe. Pure Talk. Everything you need and nothing you don't.
Hi, I'm Ty Detmer. We buy our jewelry from Sierra West Jewelers because of the great service, large selection, the diamond education, and the lowest prices. Sierra West Jewelers offers a VIP service package that my wife and I love. The VIP package includes free lifetime warranty, 50% off men's band with purchase of engagement ring, a free electric ring cleaner, a free $50 gift card to Ruth's Chris Steakhouse, plus 14 other free services. Buy at Sierra West Jewelers. I promise you'll never regret it.
Hello, this is Tim Branscombe, founder and president of Sierra West Jewelers. If you're looking for that special gift or if you need it custom made, come to Sierra West Jewelers, where we have the largest selections of rubies, sapphires, and emeralds, diamond earrings, bracelets, and pendants.
Sierra West Jewelers are guaranteed to be half the price of the big chain stores. Sierra West Jewelers, across from the malls in Sandy, Orem, and Murray, or at SierraWestJewelers.com.
You are listening to Midday. I'm Maria Shilaos. The public comment period now open for a set of maps that may be the next congressional districts in the state of Utah. The 5 maps available for comment all vary in some ways, but they all have one thing in common. Salt Lake County remains divided. The maps redrawn, we have continued coverage on Midday. Republican Representative Candace Perucci addressed the split, saying that it just isn't feasible to unify Salt Lake County while also keeping the maps in the boundaries of the law.
No, not unless about 300,000 people move somewhere else. So, no, you can't do that. And federal requirements and Supreme Court law talk a lot about one person, one vote. And if you were in the committee today, we talked a lot about meeting the zero deviation, which means the number of people in CD1 compared to CD2, that should be the same amount. So there's zero deviation. There is no scenario that you can keep Salt Lake County in one congressional district and be anywhere remotely close to a deviation standard that would be acceptable on federal policy.
Former House Minority Leader Scott Howell says, math aside, the argument should not be about maintaining a Republican supermajority. He reminds lawmakers on both sides of the aisle that the vague description of the Utah voter is not just a statistic. They are real citizens of Utah who feel unrepresented in Congress.
Do the right things. Don't do this party politics stuff. You know, think about that 90-year-old and that 18-year-old that really don't know. All they want to do is vote for the person that will represent them the best. And if it's a Republican, great. If it's a Democrat, great. But I just don't like the politics of what happens in redistricting so often.
The period for public comment ends on October 5th. Drawing congressional maps is no easy task, and the Utah Foundation has a new tool to show you just how difficult it is. The maps redrawn, our coverage continues.
Yeah, you know, this thing is really neat. When Christopher Collard on my team put this together, it was better than I'd hoped. Basically, what you are able to do is click on the site, our page at the Utah Foundation website, And you can break up the congressional districts into 4 pieces, and it tells you on the map when the districts are too big or too small. You have to have pretty equal districts. That's really one of the main goals. And a constitutional goal of breaking up these districts. So it's kind of interesting the way we do this. We have a map of the U.S. Of Utah, and you can click on a county. But with the Wasatch Front counties, so with Weber, Davis, Salt Lake, and Utah counties, we have that broken up also by city because particularly Salt Lake County, it's too big to be its own district, and that really. I think one of the fascinating things about this is that Salt Lake County throws a wrench in this whole thing. So you have to divide up Salt Lake County in some way, and some Salt Lake County folks might not appreciate that, but that's just the way it is. You'd have to change the U.S. Constitution if you weren't going to do that. And though I think the interesting part is that Salt Lake County itself is probably very different from, let's say, north to south and east to west. And there are some folks that probably would rather be in a different district anyway than being stuck with some of their neighbors within the county.
That is Sean Tigan, the president of the Utah Foundation. He hopes that this tool can help Utahns understand the challenges and intricacies of drawing congressional districts. You can play around with the tool yourself by going to utahfoundation.org/redistricting. In other news, not enough is being done to protect Utah's schools from cyber attacks. That's according to a new legislative audit which shows big gaps in security are leaving schools vulnerable. I spoke with Cade Menchie, who is Legislative Auditor General, to learn more about what is happening in schools and why they aren't doing more to avoid cyber issues.
Yeah, there's several different areas, but let me talk about 2 that I think can have a lot of impact. Multi-factor authentication is one where there are several entities doing it, but not all. This is a proven cybersecurity best practice that can really help with ensuring that any data isn't compromised. Another one is policies and practices and procedures around cybersecurity. What we have found when we've done some of these audits is that the technology office generally knows and understands the importance of some of these cybersecurity practices and policies, but it's not always communicated well to leadership or management. So we think there could be an opportunity there to moving forward to having everyone on the same page and really adopting practices that can help protect us from cyber attacks.
We've been talking about cybersecurity for a while now, but just reiterate for me just the importance of doing this in schools. Why is it a big deal? Yeah, so I'd say kind of twofold. First, when there's a cyber attack that occurs, there has been a few that have occurred recently. There can be compromising information that's obviously released that is, hurtful and harmful to those that have that information that's out there now. But it can also disrupt basic services. In some cases, schools have had to shut down, classes can't go on, and so it's really important to make sure that we can protect against that so schools can continue and, of course, sensitive data doesn't get out there. Why do you think that these things like multi-factor authentication, is that expensive, or why do you think some of these things have not been implemented? Yeah, good question. There are some tools that have some expense to go along with them. Multi-factor authentication isn't necessarily a very expensive thing. I mean, I don't want to say there isn't some cost to it, but it's not necessarily expensive. It kind of goes down to what I was talking about earlier. There needs to be better communication with those running technology and with leadership, so they can leadership making the decisions on funding can really understand the impact and the importance of these tools. Is there an importance in doing this across all platforms, so all the way through, not just K through 12, but into higher education? Absolutely. We found that higher education was a bit more advanced than public education, and what I mean by that is that these tools are more widely adopted, they're more in place and more in practice there. But it still is important across all government sectors, in our opinion. What we're seeing is this is something that's not going away. It's getting more sophisticated. The threats are real. There's a lot of good news in this space, and what I mean by good news is
there's a lot of attacks that are being stopped on a regular basis. When we talk with our officials out there, they tell us stories about how they have prevented attacks, which is really encouraging, but they're happening all the time. And some of them get through. And so we just got to continue to be diligent.
Yeah, is part of the problem how quickly technology changes and how these cyber attackers change their techniques?
Absolutely. These cyber attackers, they're sophisticated. When we talk with the experts in this field, even a decade ago, this level of sophistication wasn't necessarily there, but they're getting better and better. This is a whole crime network that's doing this, and they're getting paid a lot of money. When I say they're getting paid, they're stealing a lot of money through this, and so it's really important to try to stay on top of it.
So what are you recommending that education leaders and even the legislature do to kind of try to prevent these attacks?
So yesterday in the Legislative Audit Subcommittee, there was a lot of discussion on this, and there's a lot of things that we can do right away. There are very recognized standards out there from the Center of Internet Security, CIS, and if we can adopt their practices and policies, we will go a long way in ensuring effective controls over cybersecurity. So that's really our main focus is let's get everybody on the same page, adopt that framework. And it's not just, of course, adopting it, it's then implementing it.
Cade Menchie is the Utah Legislative Auditor General. Midday continues in just 60 seconds.
You're listening to Leaf Filter Radio, and the guru of gutter protection himself, Chris Coonahan, is here to take your most pressing leaf-related questions.
Hey, everybody, Chris here. I understand we have Ron on the line. Ron, where are you calling from?
Uh-oh. Ron, are you calling from a ladder?
Well, I was. I wanted to ask Chris what I need to do to get my gutters ready to have Leaf Filter installed.
Oh, Ron, you don't have to do anything. A Leaf Filter Trusted Pro will come out and clean out your gutters, realign and seal your gutters, and install Leaf Filter, America's #1 gutter protection system.
So I didn't need to get on this ladder?
Ron, Leaf Filter Trusted Pros are in your neighborhood and ready to help. Just visit leaffilter.com/deal to schedule your free gutter inspection and get up to 30% off.
Thank goodness. What was that site?
That's leaffilter.com/deal for your free gutter inspection today. See representative for warranty details. Promotion is 20% off plus a 10% senior or military discount. One discount per household.
The city of Fruit Heights may be getting 300 acres larger. It doesn't sound like much, but it's an important step for people who want more local control of public lands. A proposal has been sent to Congress to grant the 300 acres of federal land to the city so that they can maintain the land as part of the city, making it easier to utilize the land to its best extent. Representative Blake Moore breaks down that situation for us.
This Fruit Heights land conveyance proposal is an opportunity to fix something that's been in the works for a long time. We have the Bonneville Shoreline Trail across the Wasatch Front. It's pretty common. There's a ton of really great uses out of this. Recreationalists love it. And there's gaps in its contiguous nature, and a lot of that goes through Fruit Heights. So this has been a big frustration point. Because there's been a ton of work trying to work with the Forest Service to get that so they could manage the trails and sort of make it so there was more access to do all the things that you would do on a trail, just in individual use, scheduling races, and the like. And so, what we're trying to do here is to get the Forest Service to convey this land so that Fruit Heights can better manage it and get it more usable. And in doing so, it's kind of like a win-win for everybody.
Moore says this isn't just a land grab. It's an honest attempt at making public land more accessible for just that, public use.
If it's not used for public use, again, the whole concept of public lands is for individuals to be able to use them for trails and recreation, other types of multiple use, grazing, and all those reasons that we go out and do it, that operates under the vast majority of BLM or forest land. If the city does not use it for public use in those exact same ways, and primarily for maintaining the trail network, then the land goes right back to the Forest Service or back into federal land. It's currently undesignated. And so we're just saying with the undesignated land adjacent to Fruit Heights, we want it to be better managed. And if it's not used or managed in that way, then it goes back to the Forest Service. So anybody arguing that like this is just a land grab is, taking in previous arguments and maybe something unrelated to their argument. But what the reality is let's use it for public use. It's public land, and the Forest Service hasn't been able to make that happen over several years. So let's let the city have a chance at it. And if they end up not using it, then it goes right back to the Forest Service.
The timeline of the bill is unclear, but Moore says he hopes to see it within the next 14 months. How far would you go to save an animal? The story of how a community came together to rescue a dog trapped in feet of mud, that's coming up after the break. But first, it's KSL Traffic, brought to you by Mountain America. Turn everyday spending into an extraordinary escape. Ricky?
In West Valley, we've had an accident northbound Bangerter Highway at 3500 south to the left. On I-15 in Weber County, a crash. This is southbound I-15 in the far west area near Pioneer Road on the way to Marriott Slaterville. Now, traffic is heavy and slow in the area, even though the crash is out of traffic on the shoulder. And some leftover slowing northbound I-15 rounding the point of the mountain up to Bangerter Highway, and again from 33rd south to 1300 south. Ricky Meese in the KSL Traffic Center.
When you take your grandkids to Disney, do they know what's in your investment portfolio? Do they even care? They're busy having a great time, and you're busy making memories. At Galileo Wealth Management, we understand the nuts and bolts of retirement planning, our investments, the stock market, taxes, Social Security, Medicare, and more. But think about it. What are you trying to do here? Is your goal to beat the S&P? Or is your goal to make memories with your family? Our goal is to give you the confidence to spend in retirement without the fear of running out of money. Call Todd Kim at Galileo Wealth Management today, 801-516-3227. That's 801-516-3227, or go online to GalileoWealth.com. Let Todd Kim and Galileo Wealth Management help you make memories, not just money.
Respiratory virus season is quickly approaching, meaning we'll see more flu, COVID, and RSV in our community. The good news is vaccines are available that will help prevent these infections and keep people healthy. For flu and COVID, everyone aged 6 months and older are recommended to be vaccinated to help protect ourselves and our families against serious illness. Fall remains the best time to be vaccinated. Respiratory viruses circulate year-round, but peak late fall through winter. Your doctor can recommend which vaccines are best for you and your family.
Brought to you by Intermountain Health and KSL News Radio.
For nearly 70 years, Les Olson IT has been the trusted name for businesses. From state-of-the-art printers and copiers to managed IT services, we have the solutions you need to stay ahead in today's world. And now Les Olson IT is trusted and licensed in Utah for security systems, for technology that helps you work smarter. Les Olson IT, providing solutions that empower your business.
Les Olson IT.
I'm Ed Evans, CEO of Consumer Cellular. We're dedicated to serving people 50 and up, like me. Our needs are different. Big Wireless wants us in an unlimited plan, but if you're not using all that data, you're probably getting used. At Consumer Cellular, we're focused on affordable, reliable plans, including data that suits your needs, not ours. Our plans start at just $20, and you'll get the best customer service in the business.
Call 1-888-FREEDOM or visit consumercellular.com/facts. Plans include $5 credit for auto pay and e-billing. See site for additional facts.
If you love to travel, Capital One has a rewards credit card that's perfect for you. With the Capital One Venture X card, you earn unlimited double miles on everything you buy. Plus, you get premium benefits at a collection of luxury hotels when you book on Capital One Travel. And with Venture X, you get access to over 1,000 airport lounges worldwide. Open up a world of travel possibilities with the Capital One Venture X card. What's in your wallet?
Terms apply. Lounge access is subject to change. See CapitalOne.com for details.
This is Midday. I'm Maria Shilaos. These days, you hardly look twice at someone with a tattoo on the street or on the train. That's not the case in South Korea, though, where running a tattoo parlor could put you behind bars. ABC's Brad Milkey with Start Here has the story.
Here in the U.S., we are living in the golden age of tattoo acceptance. Everyone's got them. Guys, girls, blue collar, white collar. Some people have the big flame and skulls aesthetic. Others have delicate pastoral scenes. Some have just a little one commemorating mom. Others have full sleeves. But many cultures are simply just not down with tattoos. Right now, shifting norms could be changing the law in South Korea. For years, running a tattoo parlor has been illegal in South Korea, punishable by huge fines and up to 5 years in prison.
I knew it was illegal when I started, but I was confident that the laws would ease over time.
In the eyes of the government, the only legitimate reason to get a tattoo is for medical reasons. You've got to get a prescription. Why the aversion to it? Well, for starters, for hundreds of years, the Korean peninsula was known as a place where tattoos were forcibly imprinted on convicts and enslaved people. In more recent decades, the people who were most into tattoos were organized gangs. Now, it's not necessarily a crime to have a tattoo, but if you do have one, it can't even be aired on broadcast networks. You got to cover it up or blur it. And yet what's funny is, in East Asia, just like the rest of the world, tats are more common than ever.
I think it's nonsensical. Lawmakers, entertainers, and so many people around me have tattoos. But if it's really illegal, am I a lawbreaker?
Members of the boy band BTS have ink. A huge number of Koreans have cosmetic tattoos, like permanent eyeliner, which is also illegal there without a prescription. Expert artists with underground tattoo parlors have become sensations, with waiting lists and clients flying in from foreign countries. Some have even become political activists, holding rallies to take their jobs out of the shadows where they can't even go to the cops if something goes wrong. Well, yesterday, South Korea's National Assembly passed a bill that would give legal status to tattoo artists as long as they follow strict regulations and attend regular hygiene education courses, which, for a culture of rebels, might be more painful than the needle itself.
Korean tattoo artists will continue fighting for their ink dependence. A sticky, I should say, rescue unfolded after a dog wandered into the mud at the Fort Pierce Wash in St. George and couldn't get out.
I have seen it before, but not for a long time. Usually once they start to sink, they're like, ooh, that's not good, and they turn around and walk away. So this one, she's a senior dog, so she got a little confused and a little bit lost, and she probably just got out to where she sunk and she didn't have the strength to get herself out.
A concerned citizen spotted the animal and called Animal Services for help. Animal Services Supervisor Kathy Freitas tells KSL News Radio's Tammy Kikuchi it was a rough situation for both the dog and her rescuers.
We sent one of our Animal Services officers out there to check it out. She located where the dog was, tried to reach the dog by herself, but she also sunk in the mud. It was pretty treacherous out there where the dog was. So she called for help from our local fire department, and we had a couple firefighters assist her by using, I think they used some backboards to make like a little ramp to get out there, walk across the mud and get the dog out of the mud and bring her to safety.
So just how deep was that mud?
Officer Davis was the Animal Services officer that went out there, and when she called me, she's like, I'm sinking in the mud. And I said, how deep did you sink? And then she sent me the picture, and I was like, wow, she went pretty deep. She was pretty muddy.
Frida says it's a great example of how everyone in the community came together for a positive outcome.
I love that everybody worked together. So it was the citizen that called it in, our Animal Services responding, the fire department helping our Animal Services, our shelter staff. As soon as the dog came in, we posted a picture of her on our social media where the owners saw her there, and we were able to reunite her with her owners fairly quickly. So it was just a matter of everybody working together for the happy ending. The dog got to go home, and she's doing fine.
Such a great story.
KSL FM Midvale.
KSL Salt Lake City.
From the KSL Common Spirit Health Studios, this is KSL News Radio.
Utah's news, traffic, and weather station.
Utah teens finding themselves at the end of their ropes thinking there's no way out. Criminals using extortion to cause those children grief.
Look at my phone
and read the messages that are in the Kick app. These messages will explain everything. And as I read the conversation, I just shook because it was so evil.
But there is a way out. The time is 2 o'clock on Friday, September 26th. It's midday. I'm Maria Shilaos. Coming up, we're going in depth on a growing trend affecting Utah's children, sextortion, and ways that you can help your teens find relief, strength, and safety. Also this hour,
hey, actually, you didn't do it right. You didn't follow the law, so we need to impose the law and not allow you to have your tax increase.
truth in taxation troubles thanks to a misunderstanding of a new law. We'll get the breakdown on how these issues or what they may mean some of your taxes won't go up. But first, our top stories. Traffic should be a little smoother on Bangerter Highway soon with the new interchange about to open. KSL News Radio's Alexandria Bonilla has more.
UDOT says the interchange at 2700 West in Bluffdale will open Monday. It comes just after east to west traffic started flowing again at Bangerter and 134th South in Riverton. A few other interchanges are set to open at the end of next month, including ones at 4700 South and 9800 South.
UDOT says the new interchanges should save about 8 minutes of drive time. Our top national story. President Trump has announced another round of tariffs, this time on specific goods. The new tariffs take effect next Wednesday and apply to cabinets, bathroom vanities, upholstered furniture, and heavy trucks. More now from ABC's Karen Travers.
This will likely mean higher costs for American consumers who are relying on things that are made overseas, as companies here try to beef up their production and manufacturing. But the president has insisted that this is his policy. He's talked about this for years. He's put things like this into effect so far since taking office, but this is a pretty big one, and there wasn't a lot of lead up or teasing of this like we've seen with other rounds of tariffs.
President Trump has also announced a 100% tariff on pharmaceutical products coming in from other countries. The Federal Reserve's favored inflation gauge accelerated slightly in August from a year earlier. The Commerce Department's personal consumption expenditures price index rose 2.7% from a year ago, up from a 2.6% year-over-year increase in July. Core inflation held steady. Taking a look at your money at this moment, the Dow ending the day up nearly 300 points, sitting at 46,247. S&P up by 38. The NASDAQ up by 99 points. Jimmy Kimmel Live will be back on in more markets tonight, but still not in Salt Lake City.
We are broadcasting to about 75% of the country.
Jimmy Kimmel Live returned to ABC stations on Tuesday, but not on those owned by two companies, Nexstar and Sinclair. Those two companies continued to preempt the show. That's now ending for Sinclair, which says Kimmel will be returning to its stations immediately. Sinclair says it has proposed measures to Disney, the parent company of ABC, to strengthen accountability and community dialogue. Disney has not yet adopted those, but Sinclair says it respects Disney's right to make decisions under its network agreements. Alex Stone, ABC News.
All commercial turkey facilities are under quarantine in San Pete County after avian flu turned up in one of them. State Department of Agriculture and Food says that they are working to perform surveillance and testing in hopes of preventing the spread. Traffic and weather, it's brought to you by Mountain America. Turn everyday spending into an extraordinary escape. Here's Ricky Meese.
This crash in Weber County is out of traffic southbound I-15 near Pioneer Road as you're approaching Marriott Slaterville, but we do have backups through far west to about 2700 north, and just before that, if you're traveling through that area, even though everybody is out of traffic, it's a tight squeeze in that right lane. However, the lane is open to all travel. Ricky Meese in the KSL Traffic Center.
Still a slight chance of showers today and tomorrow, increasing on Sunday to 40%, and then the temperatures start to drop into the 70s, 79 on Sunday, clear down to 72 by Wednesday. 81 degrees at the KSL Common Spirit Health Studios.
Mornings are for recharging.
And they're for starting your day right.
We volunteer to join you in the car. Get news and weather at 102.7 FM during the most important part of your day.
Andy and Amanda, each morning between 5 and 9 on KSL News Radio.
Any Hour Services free furnace sale is going on right now. If you haven't scheduled your free estimate yet, what are you waiting for? Call Any Hour Services today or schedule online at anyhourservices.com.
I'm back to doing what I love and more, thanks to the Good Feet store.
Does it feel like someone stabbing a knife into your heel? Or does your lower back pain get worse as the day goes on? The Good Feet store wants to help you like we helped Ann.
Every time I stood up, pain just shot up my legs. Fortunately, I found the Good Feet store. I went to them after my doctor diagnosed me with plantar fasciitis. And now, thanks to the Good Feet store, I'm 100% pain-free.
Wouldn't it be nice to get back to doing what you love, like Patrick did?
I was in constant pain. Somehow my fiance and I found our way into the Good Feet store. Put my foot on the arch support system, I put them in my shoes, walked out of the store. All the pain was gone. My back, my knees, my ankles. Thank you. Thank you, everybody at the Good Feet store. You gave me my active life back.
Come in and get your free personalized fitting at the Good Feet store. Find the location nearest you and schedule an appointment at goodfeet.com.
Thanks to the Good Feet store.
Fall is my favorite time of year, and it turns out it's your plant's favorite time of the year, too. I'm back at Replenish Landscape Garden Products. Greg and Mike are here. Greg, it turns out your plants really like this time of year. It cools off, obviously, but they still need their nutrients.
They do, and it's a great time to put compost down, whether you're trying to get a few extra weeks out of your plants or if you're getting ready for next year. It's going to have a chance to work throughout the winter time and start breaking down the nutrients so they're available when you plant in the spring.
Mike, I'm thinking of two things. One is protecting those roots during the winter season. The other is feeding them this time of year is important.
Yeah, absolutely. That's one of the most important things to do throughout the winter time is to protect those roots.
Get the best compost available right now at Replenish Landscape Garden Products. Buy it in bulk, buy it in bag, or have it delivered from 4660 South 200 West in Murray. Call them at 801-262-5142 or find them online at replenishcompost.com. It's good stuff.
Thanks for tuning into Midday. I'm Maria Shilaos. A growing number of Utah teens finding themselves entrapped, manipulated, and extorted online. Many of them often too afraid to ask for help. KSL investigator Daniela Rivera has the story on teens who are victims of sextortion.
My favorite subject.
Like any mom,
I would love to tell you about Jake.
Cindy's eyes light up when she talks about her son. Once, a little boy with big dimples.
That was his last birthday, and he said, "Mom, best cake ever!"
Jake, who just turned 21, died by suicide in 2015.
At first, it didn't make sense why my son would take his life, because he wasn't depressed.
It wasn't until police gave her Jake's belongings and letters he wrote that she began to unravel what happened.
I have made a huge mistake, and I can't live with it. Look at my phone and read the messages that are in that Kick app. And as I read the conversation, I just shook because it was so evil.
Someone posing as a woman online convinced Jake to send an intimate photo.
As soon as he sent it, they said, "Now we've got you."
They told Jake to send money or they'd make the photo public, so he sent them $680.
He paid them everything he had.
But the threats didn't stop. They wanted more.
This all happened in 5 days. 5 days. I was with him on Sunday, and Friday he was gone.
Jake was the target of an evil Cindy had never even heard of before. It's called sextortion.
It's a thing that affects a lot of young people.
Stuart Young is the criminal deputy in the Utah Attorney General's office. He's seen an alarming rise in sextortion cases. Last year, Utah's Internet Crimes Against Children Task Force investigated 1,264 sextortion cases. In 2025, they've already had 2,288, an 81% increase.
It's especially affecting young men.
The motive is increasingly financial. According to the FBI, victims of sextortion nationwide have lost more than $65 million since 2021. And the results of sextortion can be deadly. Just last year, a 15-year-old boy died by suicide in Weber County. Investigators say he was being extorted over an intimate image, with the perpetrator demanding $200.
That's the worst case scenario, and that has happened a number of times.
The challenge, Young says, is that the person on the other end of the screen is often in another country.
It is much more difficult for us to prosecute.
When we think about the internet,
it is boundless. And so are these crime types.
Haley Elizondo works for the National Center for Missing and Exploited Children. She says the organization's cyber tip line fields calls every day about sextortion.
I've talked to many children who believe that they're the only one who has ever gone through this, and they're not. There's a name to this crime, and the blackmailer is to blame.
These blackmailers rely on shame, and that's why we feel this story is so important. We hope parents watching tonight will take a moment to watch again with their teens. Make sure they know how common this is, that they can come to you for help, and there is a way out. The best way to prevent this crime is talking about it before it happens.
First off, never send pictures to anybody. Second off, never send pictures to anybody you don't know. Third, if you send a picture and that picture gets out, your life is not over.
Report the user in application. Do not pay them any money, because once a payment is made, that extortioner is going to come back and ask for more money.
Most of these criminals are cowards, and most of them do not actually go through with any kind of, with those threats.
And most important, they say, if you're being extorted, is to tell someone you trust what's happening.
Dear Mom, I love you so much, and it pains me to write this.
It's a conversation Cindy wishes every day she could have had with Jake.
If he just would have talked to someone about it, we could have said, Jake, I can't ruin your life with a picture.
Cindy says she would have gotten him help.
I couldn't catch him. I could not put these evil people in jail, right?
Now, almost 10 years after his death, Cindy shares Jake's story, hoping it will help even one young person from finding themselves in the same situation.
Stop one mommy from not having to bury their son.
There are resources available to help talk with your kids, including Daniela's full story, which is available at ksltv.com. Another resource is the tip line for the National Center for Missing and Exploited Children, and that number is 1-800-THE-LOST or 1-800-843-5678. Joining me now in studio is KSL investigator Daniela Rivera, and I have to say, it's really difficult for me not to cry after hearing from that mom.
Yeah, I can tell you that I felt my eyes misting multiple times during that interview. It is absolutely heartbreaking. And, that was October will be 10 years. And you can just feel the loss is just as raw today for her, and how she wishes that she could have helped him. She didn't know what he was going through in those 5 days where he was being attacked by these people.
Just devastating. It's devastating to hear her story. The other devastating thing about your story is you're talking about thousands of kids. Mm-hmm. Thousands of kids. Oh, you would think by now kids would have gotten the word that, these aren't real people that you're talking to. They're not your friend.
Right. And it's something that, kids deserve to be made aware of. Kids deserve to know that there are people online trying to target them, and ways in which those predators will act, and things to look out for. And so we really, truly do hope that people will watch this story and use it to start that conversation with their kids, because how are they going to know what to look out for if they aren't made aware?
And things just keep changing so quickly with technology. So when you were doing the story, are you able to tell whether this is coming from one particular app, or is it multiple platforms? Where is this mostly happening?
So I am told by the National Center for Missing and Exploited Children that anywhere on the internet where kids are, so are the predators. And so, they refrain from singling out any application. I know that our local ICAC has received tips related to Snapchat, Instagram, Discord, all of those, in this example, it was the Kick app. All of those apps, anywhere children are online is susceptible. And what we've seen is that they'll maybe start on one app and try to move to another for discussion. And so sometimes these situations will involve multiple apps.
Mm-hmm. Do they ever actually catch the people behind these sextortion cases?
So a lot of these cases are coming from overseas. It's an international crime. If you Google sextortion and you look at the news tab on Google, you will see that there are some people here in the U.S. trying to do this. There's a big story about a middle schooler who was charged in a sextortion scheme. If you're doing this in the U.S., they can catch you very easily. You know what I mean? They are subpoenas.
Those overseas are
exactly.
just
It's when they're overseas that it becomes much more difficult. In Jake's case, he wired money to the Philippines. In the Weber County case that is currently under investigation, I am told that was an overseas case as well, and they are working with a foreign government to try to hold those people accountable. But it's kind of like whack-a-mole, right? There are so many out there, and there's so many in perhaps countries that aren't going to be as helpful to us as we'd like them to be in bringing these people to justice, that we cannot solely rely on prosecution. And truly the best weapon we have is awareness and information.
Okay, so have that conversation with your kids.
Absolutely.
Where can people get more information about how to do that?
Certainly. So KSLTV.com is where this story lives, and we've linked resources at the bottom. One of those is a free online video simulation that parents can do on their own or with their kids, and it kind of immerses you in this interactive video world, showing just how quickly sextortion happens and how it occurs. And it can really bring you into that very visual audio simulation to understand better. Both that is linked at the bottom of this story, as well as other resources where tips about this can be reported.
Great information. Thanks so much for being with me.
Sure thing.
That is KSL investigator Daniela Rivera. We'll be back in 1 minute.
The IRS finally caught up with Louie.
I hadn't paid my taxes in 8 years. I owe the IRS a lot of money.
Louie was in deep trouble.
We're going to take your house, put a lien on your bank account, garnish your pay. They don't care. They're going to take your paycheck.
Louie found out about Optima Tax Relief, the leading tax resolution firm. A-plus rated by the Better Business Bureau, they've resolved over $1 billion for their clients.
Optima Tax, they help me. They calm me down. They make me feel comfortable, and I trust them.
Louie has a lot to be thankful for.
I don't owe the IRS anymore, and I'm able to live a comfortable life, a lot better life. It was because of Optima Tax.
For tax help you can trust, call Optima now for a free consultation. Take it from Louie.
If you owe the IRS, don't go it alone. Give Optima Tax a call. They can help you.
Call 800-343-6460. 800-343-6460. 800-343-6460.
Optima Tax Relief.
Testimonial from an actual client. Some restrictions apply. For complete details, please visit OptimaTaxRelief.com.
Defense Secretary Pete Hegseth calling a meeting next week with top commanders and generals from around the world. Several hundred people are expected to be in this massive in-person meeting. ABC News has learned that the invitation went out to leaders and generals with 1 star or higher. ABC's Chief Global Affairs anchor Martha Raddatz has more.
Hundreds of admirals and generals are leaving their posts from airfields, at sea, and at tactical headquarters around the world. Defense Secretary Pete Hegseth summoning all U.S. general officers and admirals in command positions and senior enlisted leaders to a meeting at the U.S. Marine Corps base in Quantico, Virginia. But even those told to attend the meeting do not know what prompted Hegseth's call and what will be discussed. The Pentagon saying only the Secretary of War will be addressing his senior military leaders early next week. President Trump was asked about the meeting, but perhaps misunderstanding the question or unaware of the Hegseth meeting, he seemed to think it was foreign generals who were coming to meet Hegseth.
Well, I know. I love it. I mean, I think it's great. Let him be friendly. Let him be friendly with the generals and admirals from all over the world. Why? Is there something? No, but is there something wrong with it?
Vice President Vance stepping in.
It's not particularly unusual that generals who report to the Secretary of War and then to the President of the United States are coming to speak with the Secretary of War.
But there has not been a meeting quite like this one, and it has created apprehension among senior officers. Last May, Hegseth ordering at least a 20% reduction in the number of 4-star generals and admirals across the active duty force.
It's in keeping with President Trump's commitment to achieving peace through strength. We're going to shift resources from bloated headquarters elements to our warfighters.
The secretary has already fired at least 15 senior military officers, including General C.Q. Brown, the then chairman of the Joint Chiefs of Staff, and the first woman to command the Navy, Admiral Lisa Franchetti, also let go. While the topic of the meeting remains a mystery, given what President Trump and J.D. Vance said about it, it does not appear to be an urgent national security matter. But having this many senior officers away from their post does create concern among some.
That is ABC's Martha Raddatz reporting. Inflation and consumer sentiment looking better today with new data. What does this mean for the state of the economy and the future of interest rate cuts? We'll chat with someone from the Federal Reserve Bank next. But first, it's KSL Traffic. It's brought to you by Mountain America. Turn everyday spending into an extraordinary escape. Ricky?
We have a hazmat situation in Summit County causing delays eastbound I-80. It's 2 to 3 miles east of Silver Creek, and they've been blocking a left lane. Traffic is stop and go and slow and go at times. And then we also still have the cleanup of this accident southbound I-15 near Pioneer Road in the Marriott-Slaterville area of Weber County. It's still backing traffic into Pleasant View and also causing some northbound Curiosity slowing on the opposite side of I-15. With this crash, it's completely out of traffic on the right shoulder. Common Spirit hospitals, clinics, and caregivers, all connected to advanced health care in Colorado, Kansas, and Utah. Healthcare with human kindness is here. Hello, human kindness. Ricky Meese in the KSL Traffic Center.
Hi, this is Doug Ryden. For years, I've been telling you about products I truly believe in and that we use in our home. And one is Kinetico. We all know the downsides of hard water, tough on home appliances, frustrating spots on shower doors, but it also affects your personality. When you shower, does the water feel invigorating? Hard water can leave your skin feeling sticky and itchy. A Kinetico soft water system changes everything. It's like having a luxurious spa experience when you shower, making your daily routine something you look forward to. Kinetico, it's a difference you can feel. Their patented system uses far less salt than competitors, and they're exclusively focused on water softeners. They're the experts in their field, and they'll show you the difference for free with no obligation to buy. Call Kinetico Quality Water Systems of Salt Lake, an authorized independent dealer, at 801-576-8600, or check them out online at softwaterutah.com. Start enjoying your water. Spoil yourself every day.
Worried about market losses? If headlines are keeping you up at night, it's time to take control. Hi, I'm Jeff Jr. with Trajan Wealth, and I know you've worked hard to save. But in times like these, what if can turn into what now? If you're planning to retire or are in retirement, you need a strategy that helps protect your future. At Trajan Wealth, you can capture market gains, protect your account from losses, and guarantee income for life. Right now, you could receive a bonus of up to 30% or annual growth of up to 10% for retirement income. You heard me right. An upfront bonus of up to 30% or annual growth of up to 10%, all guaranteed to boost your lifetime income in retirement. Don't leave your future to chance. Plan with confidence. Call Trajan today at 801-899-7600. That's 801-899-7600.
Annuity guarantees are based on the claims paying ability of the issuing insurance company, DBA, in most states, as Trajan Wealth Insurance Solutions.
You're listening to Leaf Filter Radio, and the guru of gutter protection himself, Chris Coonahan, is here to take your most pressing leaf-related questions.
Hey, everybody, Chris here. I understand we have Ron on the line. Ron, where are you calling from?
Uh-oh. Ron, are you calling from a ladder?
Well, I was. I wanted to ask Chris what I need to do to get my gutters ready to have leaf filter installed.
Oh, Ron, you don't have to do anything. A Leaf Filter Trusted Pro will come out and clean out your gutters, realign and seal your gutters, and install Leaf Filter, America's #1 gutter protection system.
So I didn't need to get on this ladder?
Ron, Leaf Filter Trusted Pros are in your neighborhood and ready to help. Just visit leaffilter.com/deal to schedule your free gutter inspection and get up to 30% off.
Thank goodness. What was that site?
That's leaffilter.com/deal for your free gutter inspection today. See representative for warranty details. Promotion is 20% off plus a 10% senior or military discount. One discount per household.
Hi, Utah families. We all would do anything we could to boost our children's confidence and set them up for success. And Smile Zemi can help. Smile Zemi is the personalized learning tablet designed for students from kindergarten through 5th grade. Smile Zemi adapts to your child's level and learning style, delivering engaging lessons anytime, anywhere. Each lesson offers just right challenges, not too easy, not too hard, keeping learning fresh, motivating, and confidence building. Visit smilezemi.com to learn more.
You're listening to Midday. I'm Maria Shilaos. We are streaming on the KSL News Radio app, sponsored by At Your Service Pros. New reports released today show the core inflation and consumer sentiment were both in line with expectations. The markets responded favorably, and the news could help the Fed make further interest rate reductions before the year's end. Today, we are chatting about the state of the economy with Mary C. Daly, president of the Federal Reserve Bank of San Francisco, which oversees Utah. President Daly, thanks for being with me today.
Oh, my pleasure. Delighted.
So nice to see that inflation is improving, but when I go to the grocery store, I just don't feel like I'm seeing those prices drop. But talk about the state of inflation right now.
Sure, and inflation is the way that prices grow, and so the growth is slowing, which is really good. But yes, American families, including people in Utah, are still struggling with the higher prices. Over time, that will right itself because our wages catch up and they actually surpass it, and people feel like, oh, I'm back where I was before. But the Fed needs to keep working on this, which is why we're keeping our interest rate restrictive and putting pressure down on inflation. That's the commitment we made to the American people, and we're going to follow through on that.
Okay, there's been talk that we could see 2 more interest rate cuts this year. Is that going to happen? What are you expecting?
You know, I don't want us to get too far ahead here because we do have to look at both of our goals, and we just talked about prices and inflation, and so clearly there's more work to do there. But we took an interest rate cut to support the labor market because we don't want that to break. We actually have to watch both. So we'll make decisions at our next 2 meetings this year by looking at the information on both of those measures and balancing the risks and making sure that we don't, leave inflation get away from us to support the labor market, or vice versa, support the labor market, and then find that we're in another concern. So we really have to fight hard to do both at the same time. And that's what we'll do. So no answer today about what happens next, but we will be looking at those pieces of information and make decisions.
Yeah, anyone who took a European vacation this year knows that the dollar didn't fare too well in places like London and Paris. What is the state of the dollar on a global scale?
It's interesting. The Fed doesn't have a role to play in dollar policy. That's the Treasury Secretary and the federal government. But what we see is that the dollar's fluctuating now as other countries make decisions about our trade policy, about our debt, about interest rates, growth in the economy. They put all of that together, and then they decide, where their currency should trade against ours. And really not any person or country decides. It's the markets that decide. And so the dollar is going to fluctuate a little bit. It looks like it has been, but that doesn't mean our nation isn't strong.
Mm-hmm. How is our region doing? I feel like in Utah, we seem to be a little bit sheltered, more sheltered than other places, but how is the region doing?
It's doing really well. I was just there for the last 3 days, and I saw the same thing I saw in April, where I came earlier this year. It's just an enthusiasm, sort of a cautious, people are cautious. They're not just running into things, but they're optimistic. And I see that on the universities when I go visit students. I see it in the cranes all over the city that I hear is your new city or state bird. But, the cranes that with people being optimistic about construction and about building things and growing their businesses. And you really have a burgeoning workforce of people who are talented and interested and enthusiastic. So I think the region's doing well. The entire Intermountain West, which is in the 12th District, I cover it, is doing well. But Utah really stands out as continuing to deliver good optimism, good growth, and good opportunity.
Right. You mentioned the cranes that we're seeing. Do you find that the regular consumer is just as optimistic as, say, the commercial or the commercial developments that we're seeing all over the city?
I think the regular consumer, when I spoke to them, so one of the things I like to do is go early and then walk around and talk to people working in retail outlets or shopping at retail outlets and just ask how they're feeling, what they're doing. And I do see that cautious optimism. Of course, the number one concern you hear is housing affordability and can I buy a home and how will I buy a home and how much will I have to save? And so that's something I hear wherever I go in the United States or the 12th District. But what is, and I always tell them this, what's interesting and useful is that Utah is leading the way, if you think about it, in terms of getting public partnerships with private partnerships and civic leaders and trying to think about how do we solve this. And I don't know if you notice it. I notice it because I don't live there. I come there. There's just more housing going up every time I turn around. So it's not going to solve the problem tomorrow, but I think it's on a good path. But that is the number one concern I hear. Consumers are worried about housing.
All right. I appreciate your help. Thank you so much for being with me.
Oh, my pleasure. Thank you.
Mary Daly, the president of the Federal Reserve Bank of San Francisco. It's 2:30 midday at KSL News Radio. Some of the stories we are watching this hour. Truth in taxation troubles, meaning some of your taxes might not go up. Bats wreaking havoc at some Wasatch Front schools, and KSL traffic. Ricky?
We do have hazmat crews on the scene of I-80 in Summit County. It's going to be east of Silver Creek, causing delays. Maria?
Expect some fall-like temperatures to hit us next week, dipping out of the 80s. It looks like by Sunday we're going to see that and a 40% chance of rain. Okay, it's 2:30.
ABC News, I'm Michelle Franzen. Tennessee's Republican Governor Bill Lee says National Guard troops will deploy to Memphis next week after President Trump signed an order this month approving the deployment to help curb crime.
Personnel from 13 agencies will be on the ground in Memphis next week. It will begin a phased operational approach.
The mayor of Memphis says crime has fallen in the past 2 years. A report from the New York City Medical Examiner is determining the shooter who killed 4 people at a Midtown office building this summer had traumatic brain injury known as CTE. Shane Tamura was a former high school football player. Police say he may have been targeting the NFL, which had offices in the building. President Trump announcing a new round of tariffs that kick in October 1st. It includes hikes on furniture and cabinet imports, along with heavy trucks. On Wall Street today, stocks finishing on a high note due to positive economic data. This is ABC News.
KSL's top local story. University of Utah has released their annual campus safety report with a high number of rapes, but some important context for that number.
The U says they had just under 150 cases of rape on campus in 2024, which is nearly 5 times what was reported in 2022. Though the school says 75% of those cases came from a single survivor who endured a violent relationship for months with the same person. Both of those students have since graduated. University spokesperson Rebecca Walsh tells me the higher numbers could also be a sign more survivors are coming forward.
We're glad that they know we will believe them and we will report their experience. That's important for them personally in their healing, but it's also important for our campus so that members of our campus community can see we believe victims. We report what you tell us.
Walsh says they hope they can continue to combat sexual assault and the harm it causes over time, and she says talking about it openly is going to be a key part of that.
Keeping it under lock and key is not a solution. We need to talk about these things. We need to continue educating our campus community and our students in particular about these things.
Adam Small, KSL News Radio.
Utah State researchers are working on ways to get more people to carry bear spray, especially in and around Yellowstone. Assistant Professor Anna Miller and her team found that between 2012 and 2019, the number of bear encounters more than doubled. But despite that, only 1 in 4 hikers carry bear spray. When asked why they don't, some say they don't want to pay, they don't even know about it, or they're afraid of hurting the bears.
The caveat is that it would hurt the bear more if it does become habituated to humans because it doesn't have that fear of humans.
Miller says parks can do their part by providing cheap spray options and more information before people go out. Monday's commute should be a lot easier on the south end of the Bangerter Highway. Traffic will start to flow over the new 2700 South overpass in Riverton Monday morning. Traffic and weather, it's brought to you by Mountain America. Turn everyday spending into an extraordinary escape. Ricky?
Already problems out there in Summit County. We have a hazmat situation blocking a left lane of traffic eastbound I-80. This is about 3 miles east of Silver Creek. It is causing delays. New crash with some debris southbound I-15 in Draper after Bangerter Highway. Right now, UHP is blocking 3 left lanes. It looks like they'll try to open up some of those lanes here very quickly. In the meantime, it's backing traffic. And then for Weber County drivers, we still have the final cleanup of this crash on southbound I-15 by Pioneer Road in Marietta, Slaterville. It's still backing traffic through Far West and into Pleasant View. Why settle for a basic night out when all tickets for Utah Symphony and Utah Opera performances are now on sale? Don't wait. Prices go up after August 31st. Ricky Meese in the KSL Traffic Center.
Slight chance of showers across the Wasatch Front tonight, 10% chance tomorrow, but increasing to a 40% chance on Sunday, and a big drop in the temperatures. Looks like we are into the 70s, low 70s by the middle of the week. 81 degrees at the KSL Common Spirit Health Studios.
cooler weather. What a relief, unless you have old drafty windows. Soon the heat will escape through the cracks and your energy bill is going to go through the roof. So now's the time to call Advanced Window Products and get brand new state-of-the-art custom windows and frames at factory direct pricing. The factory is right here in Salt Lake City, where they've been building precision windows since 1986, and you're going to save a lot of money since there's no middleman markup. You save 30, even 40% on your new windows. Even better, call now and they'll give you an extra $2,500 off on 10 windows or more. Double pane argon-filled windows with a low-energy triple coating, any style, any color, and Advanced Windows gives you a lifetime warranty. If you have an issue, they're not 10 states away. They're right here in town, and they offer 0% 60-month financing. So make the call now. Get $2,500 off. 801-850-9100. That's 801-850-9100, or go to advancedwindows.com.
Drivers who switch and save with Progressive could save hundreds. With that kind of money, you could go big time and skip the regular line at the airport and pay for speedy security. Imagine not having to quickly unpack and pack at the place you already came packed to. And wearing your shoes the whole time you're there? You can't put a price on that kind of luxury. Well, actually you can, and you paid for it. Switch to Progressive and you could save big time for speedy security. Progressive Casualty Insurance Company and affiliates, not available in all states. Potential savings will vary.
I'm Ed Evans, CEO of Consumer Cellular. We're dedicated to serving people 50 and up like me. Our needs are different. Big Wireless wants us in an unlimited plan, but if you're not using all that data, you're probably getting used. At Consumer Cellular, we're focused on affordable, reliable plans, including data that suits your needs, not ours. Our plans start at just $20, and you'll get the best customer service in the business.
Call 1-888-FREEDOM or visit consumercellular.com/facts. Plans include $5 credit for auto pay and e-billing. See site for additional facts.
You are listening to Midday. I'm Maria Shilaos. Nearly 40 proposals for tax increases across the state are being denied by the Utah Tax Commission. That's because they didn't follow all the necessary requirements for the truth in taxation process. KSL News Radio's Heather Peterson joins me now live in the studio to talk about it. So what's going on here, Heather?
Marie, we're talking about millions and millions of dollars now off the table for cities and school districts that say they really need this money. It stems from 2 Senate bills passed in the last couple years that gave the Utah Tax Commission the directive to deny proposals for property and sales tax increases if the process isn't precisely followed. During a committee meeting hearing last week, the Tax Commission says of the 81 entities, such as cities and school districts, that were seeking tax increases, 39 will not get approved the funds they need. And that has some of those entities stressed out they're not going to get those funds. I spoke with Draper's Mayor Troy Walker, who says they're not going to get the money they need for a new fire truck, and they were just looking to renew a tax for their citizens that they're already paying. That's $953,000 that was denied because they forgot to include a slide in their truth in taxation hearing that compared the cost with other nearby cities. That was their one disqualifying factor. So he's frustrated that there was no warning that they could remedy the situation. They were just denied. State Senator Chris Wilson, the sponsor of those recent laws that were passed to crack down on the process, says it wasn't meant to create gotcha moments for these entities. It was simply about making sure the law is followed correctly.
When we were running these last 2 bills, there wasn't any feedback that we received from the counties or cities about concerns that we were giving the Tax Commission teeth, if you will, because we didn't really add anything new this past session to what has been going on they should have been following for years and years and years. The difference is that now the Tax Commission can deny the increase in taxes if they don't follow transparent procedures that we've come up with.
Deanna Herring, Deputy Executive Director of the Utah Tax Commission, says it may be that those entities now need more clarification to fully understand the requirements so they don't fall into these traps in the future.
It's written fairly clearly. It seemed to us that it couldn't be interpreted so many different ways. And then now this year we realize, okay, when people are held to the strict reading of it, knowing that there is this consequence at the end, we found out there were a lot of different interpretations. So I think at the time it made sense. And if you read the plain language of the law, it seems logical and makes sense. But obviously there was interpretation. And I think that difference is what we have made accounts for over the years.
When looking at the entities being denied tax increases, that list is pretty extensive and expensive. For example, Alpine School District is losing out on more than $22 million, and the Granite School District more than $17 million.
Ugh. Taxpayers are breathing a sigh of relief, but those entities, that's pretty
Oof,
painful. Thank
brutal.
you. Thank you, Heather. KSL News Radio's Heather Peterson. Midday continues in just 60 seconds.
You're still glowing, flirting, grooving. You've still got it. But your immune system weakens as you age, making it harder to fight flu, pneumococcal pneumonia, RSV, and COVID-19. Vaccines are a key part of any health routine and help strengthen your immune response. Ask your doctor or pharmacist which vaccines you need. Schedule in minutes at vaxassist.com. Sponsored by Pfizer.
If you love to travel, Capital One has a rewards credit card that's perfect for you. With the Capital One Venture X card, you earn unlimited double miles on everything you buy. Plus, you get premium benefits at a collection of luxury hotels when you book on Capital One Travel. And with Venture X, you get access to over 1,000 airport lounges worldwide. Open up a world of travel possibilities with the Capital One Venture X card. What's in your wallet?
Terms apply. Lounge access is subject to change. See CapitalOne.com for details.
2 undocumented immigrants remain hospitalized after Wednesday's sniper attack on an Immigration and Customs Enforcement office in Dallas. 1 other detainee was killed. 2 days later, officials say there appears to be no indication that this was a spur-of-the-moment assault. The alleged shooter is 29-year-old Joshua Yan. ABC's Maria Villarreal shares new details about the investigation with Start Here podcast host Brad Milkey.
You know, there was a lot of information that was given out at the most recent press conference. Basically, the FBI, along with their partners in the U.S. Attorney's Office, HSI, ICE, they talked a lot about what they'd found in the suspect's home, handwritten notes.
Notably, these loose notes included a game plan of the attack and target areas at the facility.
It gave them the feeling, enough to obviously put this out there in the press conference, that he had been pre-planning this attack for months. I mean, the notes not only talked about what his plan was, but also talked about his feelings towards ICE.
He called the ICE employees people showing up to collect a dirty paycheck.
FBI also talked about the weapon that was used, that it was legally purchased, and that they believed that he was intending to use it on personnel for ICE and not necessarily the detainees, that he actually wanted to minimize collateral damage.
He hoped his actions would terrorize ICE employees and interfere with their work, which he called human trafficking.
That this was not meant to be an act of violence against the detainees. That's not exactly, though, what happened, Brad.
These were individuals that were detained by law enforcement. There were multiple transport vehicles at the facility at that time.
We now know that the detainees were actually restrained as they were being transported into this facility. The HSI was basically telling us that they were not able to get out of that transportation van on their own once the shooter was firing down at the facility.
Under gunfire, multiple federal agents, ran into that fire to remove these individuals and to attempt to, render life-saving aid.
And in fact, 1 ICE agent and 1 ATF agent were able to go back out into the gunfire and pull out the people that were not injured and try to get them to safety.
Well, and so with kind of the background they were describing about him, I mean, they said he planned this for weeks or months. I mean, what did that end up looking like on the day? Did they have a better sense of how he prepped for this?
The U.S. attorney actually talked about video that has the suspect driving towards the direction of the ICE facility at around 3 a.m. with a ladder on top of his vehicle. And they do believe that that ladder is what was used in order to get to the top of the building where he took his shots from.
His notes reveal, yes, it was just me and my brain. And he said, good luck with the digital footprint. And of course, we take this to mean that he deleted evidence from his devices.
The FBI agent in charge basically said, we haven't seen any affiliation with any specific organization But we do know that he was using tracking apps that are geared towards the tracking of ICE agents in the area, and that he used those in order to figure out exactly where they would be, and also to figure out, they believe, what facility he wanted to target.
In the wake of the shooting, officials say they have ramped up security at other ICE facilities around the country. Running like a bat out of an elementary school? Classes continue online today for Cherry Hill Elementary after they discovered a burrow of bats in their school. Richard Stowell with the Alpine School District says it's been anything if not unexpected.
We weren't prepared for bats. We hadn't planned on that for this school year, but a few bats were discovered earlier in the week. We found a dead bat, and then as we investigated, our crews found many bats. They were living in the ceiling and in part of the building, and that's kind of a problem because bats can be carriers of disease, and they're also difficult to remove, and so we made the decision to have kids learn from home for these 2 days at the end of the week, and hopefully by Monday we'll have the problem solved and kids back in school.
Stowell says efforts to remove the bats are already underway, and they're doing everything they can to support students and their families during the online period. He says they hope to welcome students back into the building on Monday. It's not the first time bats have made a local school their home. There have been problems with bats in schools like West and Highland High. Wildlife conservation biologist Sean Plattis with the Utah Division of Wildlife Resources tells me there's a good reason bats show up in schools this time of year.
Schools and kind of these industrial buildings they're really good at mimicking sort of the natural habitat for some of these bats, where these bats traditionally would be in sort of these cliffs, caves, things like that. So when we have, schools or these other buildings, the bats kind of like those areas where they can get up a little higher, they can get into a safe area, and they can roost in those areas to kind of stay away from predators. And again, it's just sort of mimicking their natural habitats. As far as the seasonality of this goes, we have migrating and hibernating bats in Utah. And most of the species that we see most often coming into schools or other buildings are migrating bats. So these migratory bats, they will come up in the spring similar to, birds, and they will leave in the fall after they've given birth to pups. But we kind of see a bigger boom during this time because we get females that come up, migrate. They find these maternity colonies where they'll go in and roost in buildings. They'll give birth to their pups, and they use that as kind of a safe haven for their pups. And then once their pups are able to fly, they'll go off, fly around, but they'll still kind of continue to use the maternity colony for a while before they migrate. So it's just kind of the most common time of the year when we're seeing this is around that end of July, August, all the way into October, where we're having those maternity colonies where the pups are flying a lot more, the females are out flying a lot more, and we're just seeing those on the landscape and emerging a lot more too.
Right. We know moms protect their babies. So are these bats dangerous?
Yeah, there's a lot of misconceptions around bats, and I think most people have a negative conception about bats. But when it kind of breaks things down, there are really low risks when it comes to bats and a lot more benefits. So in Utah, all of our bats are insectivores, meaning that they eat insects. So they're really Utah's natural pest control. So we have them consuming a lot of different things from moths and beetles and mosquitoes to some of these insect pests that might forage on things like our agricultural crops. So they're really a great benefit. The concern I think that happens and what people know most about bats is when it comes to diseases. And one of the big concerns with disease is when we talk about rabies. And so with any mammal, rabies can affect and it can be really deadly, especially to humans. So it's not something that we like to take lightly or mess around with. But less than 0.5% of our bats are expected to carry rabies. We have hundreds of thousands of them out on the landscape. And the bigger problem is a lot of times we just aren't out when bats are out. So we're not interacting with them very often. They're out at night foraging. But if we see a bat that, maybe is out on the ground during the daytime, it could be injured or it could be a sick bat. And that's when we have concerns. So we'll go get that bat tested. And even of those bats, that's pretty rare that we actually get a positive back from those bats. But that said, it's not a disease, rabies being a virus that can be fatal. It's not a disease we want to mess around with. So we always encourage people to never pick up a bat, call your local wildlife experts, the Division of Wildlife, or your health department to kind of get information on how to handle those situations. But having bats in a building or in a school, so long as we don't have these direct human exposures, there's kind of low risk when it comes to any kind of disease transmissions.
So, as a wildlife biologist, when you hear stories of bats in schools, I mean, do you kind of chuckle and go, "Yep, that's what they do"? Or I mean, we get all concerned, but how do you take it when you hear these stories?
It comes down to exposure. I'm out working with bats all the time. I'm in areas where there's, again, hundreds, sometimes thousands of bats flying around, or we're out sampling. So it's just kind of breaking down those misconceptions. And, when we're out talking to the public, again, I like to say that most things you know about a bat is a misconception. Again, we have all of these bats emerging during the summer, flying around, foraging on our insects. We just don't see them a lot. And when we do come in contact with them, it's usually this human-wildlife conflict where they might be in a building or in a school, and we kind of want to deal with that before it becomes a bigger issue or before there could be potential for human exposures or concerns that we might have.
Sean Plattis is a wildlife conservation biologist with the Utah Division of Wildlife Resources. After the break, we're talking about all things FanX. But first, it's KSL Traffic, brought to you by Mountain America. Turn everyday spending into an extraordinary escape, Ricky.
The crash we have in Draper, southbound I-15, just after Bangerter Highway, has been moved over to the shoulder. But we have residual delays through Sandy. And then southbound I-15, the delays are breaking up, going from Pleasant View to Far West and Marriott Slaterville from an earlier crash there. We have a hazmat situation eastbound I-80. It's been affecting a left lane. This is about 3 miles east of Silver Summit. Expect delays. And then a KSL Texter, and this is one. Tooele County drivers, get used to this. This construction has been awful, and it's going to be there for a while. Delays due to lane restrictions with roadwork southbound on Main Street from Erta down to 10th North. So just keep an eye out for that and plan on extra travel time. Utah Opera presents The Shining, based on Stephen King's thrilling novel, Jack Torrance's Descent into Madness. It comes to life on stage October 11th through 19th. Tickets start at $26 at utahopera.org/Red Rum. Ricky Meese in the KSL Traffic Center.
More than 50 million Americans suffer from a form of mental illness.
And Utah isn't immune, with nearly 1 in 3 people dealing with anxiety, depression, or another form of mental illness.
But there's hope. We can all take action to keep ourselves and our loved ones safe.
That's why KSL has teamed with the Huntsman Mental Health Foundation to bring you hope and help you thrive.
It's Healthy Mind Matters.
Find out more at healthymindmatters.com.
At Intermountain Health, we believe life is a circle. May yours surround you with insight, a healthy perspective, trust, and reassurance. The belief that our differences aren't that different, and compassion just when you need it most. Life is a circle. May yours help you live the healthiest life possible. Intermountain Health.
This is Midday. I'm Maria Shilaos. It's Friday and time for cool stuff in Utah with the Arrow's John Smith. And this weekend, John is all about FanX, and you're pretty excited to talk about it, aren't you?
Love this time of year. I still call it Comic Con. I can't call it that.
You can't call that anymore.
Comet Corn.
Comet Corn.
Salt
you can
Lake
call it.
Comet Corn.
That's a tongue twister. Stick with FanX.
Season. No, Salt Lake City FanX.
There you go.
This is, I think, the 12th year that they've done this. Can you believe it's been that long?
No, actually. Decade went by really fast.
It's going on all this weekend over at the Salt Palace. So if you're trying to get downtown and you see a guy walking around looking like a Pikachu, or people dressed like stormtroopers, that's where they're going.
Mm-hmm.
They're going over to FanX.
Yes, you can do it. You can do it.
I myself got a couple of celebrities lined up that I get to go and hang out with today.
Okay.
I don't know if
hanging
William
out
Shatner's
with?
going to make it. William Shatner's scheduled to be there, but I guess he had some sort of health emergency earlier in the
That's
week.
too bad.
So I don't know if
All
he's
right.
going to be there or not. Danny Elfman is one that's going to be there. The cast of K-pop Demon Hunters going to be there. The kids are all excited. My co-host Sam is all excited
Sam's
over
with
here.
us.
I just saw K-pop Demon Hunters over the weekend, and
So
Golden
good.
is stuck in my head. I love that movie.
So that's going on at the Salt Palace.
I like the excitement. We need it on a Friday.
Today, yesterday, and tomorrow.
Okay.
So today and tomorrow. You don't need to know.
So do you get like one-on-one interviews with these folks?
If I'm lucky. When you just go up and stand in the line, you can usually just go up and meet them. And if you ask them nicely, they'll let you take a video. Sometimes you have to pay for it. So you have to pay for an autograph and stuff like that. These guys are making a living. But it's worth it to support their art and to support them as they're out on the road, supporting their fans. So
okay, so why do you get so excited? I mean, are these your people? What's happening here?
Absolutely. Are you kidding? I am a Star Wars nerd. I am a G.I. Joe nerd. I'm a toy collector. I'm an art collector. I love comic books. I love movies. This is my jam.
Okay, have you done any videos on FanX ever?
I don't. For the Cool Stuff series?
Yeah.
We have not. I need to.
Because I think a behind-the-scenes look at all of these wonderful creatures and costumes.
I should do one. The problem is that when I go over there, I get so excited about playing, I forget to do the work.
You're having too much fun.
Last year, I got to meet Chris Evans, who's Captain America. And I did this whole meet and greet, talked to him for like 10 minutes, didn't take any pictures, didn't get anything signed, didn't get any video. I just sat there and did the thing, and then I left, and then I was like, oh, I forgot to get my, oh, no.
No.
But I got to hang out with Chris Evans, and that was awesome.
And you can talk about that for a long time.
So if comic books and pop culture not your thing, there's a couple other things going on this weekend. You got Breaking Benjamin and 3 Days Grace going on tomorrow night out at the Utah First Credit Union Amphitheater.
Mm-hmm.
Man, I ran out of breath getting through that one.
It's a long title.
You've also got Real Salt Lake in town taking on Austin FC. And Oktoberfest going on up at Snowbird. And don't forget the Crossy Ranch Fall Festival in full effect. So you can get your
Such a great time of year. Such a great time of year.
It's a great corn
Okay,
maze.
and if they just want to find a video, do you have one you want to at least suggest for them to go see on YouTube today?
Yes, in fact, so we've been doing these for a few years now. So it's getting up on the Halloween season. We have a whole bunch of spooky themed cool stuff in Utah videos. Urban legends around the Salt Lake City Cemetery. Urban legends around the Salt Lake City County building. And we've hit not one, not two, but 3 different haunted locations, including Asylum 49, Fear Factory, and the Nightmare on 13th. All behind-the-scenes videos. Just look for Cool Stuff in Utah on YouTube.
The Arrow's John Smith joining us Friday afternoons to talk about cool stuff in Utah. With FanX underway, you may see some little green men walking about the streets of downtown Salt Lake. KSL News Radio's Heather Kelly has been covering the convention for us and talked with some seriously cool people. Hey. Henry Winkler, known for his role as the iconic Arthur Fonzarelli on Happy Days, says FanX is a great opportunity to meet the people who enjoy what he does.
Do you know what? This is so lovely. We get to meet the people who watch us. And I'm here having the best time. I have my children's books. Our newest one comes out September 30th. And I'm just so excited to be in Salt Lake.
And what's the name of the new book?
Detective Duck, Volume 3.
And of course, FanX wouldn't be complete without a trip to a galaxy far, far away.
Let me see your identification.
You don't need to see his identification.
We don't need to see his identification.
These aren't the droids you're looking for.
These aren't the droids we're looking for.
He can go about his business.
Voice actor Chris Bartlett lends his voice to over 20 droids in the Mandalorian TV series, including the iconic Clanker C-3PO. Now, he told us that conventions like FanX are how he found his dream role.
As a fan, before I was an actor, I would come to conventions like FanX and in costumes that I built so I could play characters, and that was enough for me, I felt like I could, that was the actor that level that I thought I could be at. And Lucasfilm saw me doing this after 6 years, and they asked me to come in for an audition, and I came in the suit that I built, that they chromed for me, and I really wanted to nail this. So it was mostly a movement audition, but when they turned on the lights, I said, oh my goodness, why hello, I am C-3PO, Human Cyborg Relations. This is my counterpart, R2-D2. I am fluent in overseas, and they're like, that's enough. We're going to send you to Australia, and you're going to do a commercial. I was like, wow. I could never have orchestrated this. You know, it was just doing the thing I always loved doing, which was playing characters and building them, and it turned out to work out.
C-3PO, Jeff Kaplan in downtown Salt Lake City.
Yeah, I was getting ready for my show, and I heard that, and my ears perked right up. That was so cool.
Got goosebumps. It is cool. So enjoy these the procession of celebrities and colorfully clothed characters in our fair city this weekend. Jeff Kaplan's Afternoon News is next.
KSL FM Midvale.
KSL Salt Lake City.
From the KSL Common Spirit Health Studios, this is KSL News.